Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another Captain Marvel video. It's about that time again. I know a lot of YouTubers are making 3 or 4 Captain Marvel videos a day right now, and that's smart YouTubing because they're popular, they're getting clicks, and that's the way to grow a channel. But I just can't bring myself to make a Captain Marvel video unless I really have something unique to say about whatever's going on, or a different perspective to give. I know a lot of channels will just react to anything and everything, and then it seems like your YouTube feed is cluttered with 5 different people just saying the same thing about Brianna Wu or whatever. So I wanted to wait until I had something unique, and I do think I have something that resonates with me and my background and some of the silliness of what's going on here. So this is regarding the Brianna Wu's nonsense comments about trying to use Congress or legislate against people daring to criticize or speak out against Captain Marvel, as well as some recent comments that Kelly Sue DeConnick made about the Captain Marvel film and how it's going to inspire women's studies papers and academic papers, and So I wanted to address those, but let me go back in time a little bit first and start off a bit earlier. I grew up evangelical Christian, and not just evangelical Christian, but really literal translation, fundamentalist, extreme evangelical Christian. So not all people who are evangelical Christians are that. So I want to be clear on that. But I was very, very extreme, to the point where I had my beliefs and morality, that I was taught as a child and everything, and that's just what was right to me. So everybody should follow that. Everybody should follow that because it was right to me. And growing up in the 90s and 80s and 90s, the response I would often hear from people who didn't agree with me, people who were more liberal or whatever, was that you can't legislate your morality. Let's say we were having a conversation about something like gay marriage, for example, okay? Well, that was just wrong. That was just wrong to me in every way, growing up with the upbringing that I had. And so that was, no, it was wrong. It should absolutely be illegal, and this and that. And somebody would say, who didn't agree, they say, you can't legislate your morality. You think that's right, and that's fine. You have your right to think what you want to about that. But morality is something that's, past a certain point. Basic, don't kill, don't hurt other people, basic, but anything past that, that's a choice. You can't force. If you force your morality on somebody else, it's not their morality. It's just something they're forced to do because you're coercing them to do it with the government, right? So that was the argument that people gave me. Now, eventually that seeped in. Eventually it made sense. And a lot of things happened in my life. Eventually I left that specific style of Christianity that I grew up in, absolutely, and went off to school and really changed my worldviews to a great deal, and am now in a very different place that my live streamers know about, but that's irrelevant to mention here. But the point is that idea stuck with me, that idea that you can't legislate your morality. If you want to change somebody's heart and mind, it has to really change their heart and mind. It can't come from the outside. It's got to come from the inside. You can't just force people to adhere to your morality and then hope that it'll seep inward, because it will not seep inward. All that's going to seep inward then is resentment. So that doesn't work. Then I came around to that way of thinking. Of course, I never became a very liberal SJW type by any means. In fact, I've always really clung to that idea of personal liberty, with my own personal beliefs aside. And when I entered grad school, I received my bachelor's degree in humanities, and I entered into graduate school. I knew I wanted to pursue and study literature at a graduate level, so I entered into a master's degree in literature. And I finished out that degree, but as I was there, I realized quickly that nothing about graduate school and literature is remotely concerned with understanding the literature at a higher level. No, it's all about how can we use this literature as propaganda for a political agenda. A liberal SJW political agenda. That's really what higher academia is about when it comes to the arts in general. And at one point when I was in my graduate assistantship second year, and we were starting to, me and my fellow students who were at that same level, were starting to teach undergraduate freshman writing classes. We were there to teach those classes, and that was part of our assistantship. So me and some of the other students, we would compare notes about what assignments we were giving or whatever, just my first early years of teaching. And I remember talking to this one girl who said that she was assigning this documentary called King Corn or something like that, and leading her students into why high fructose corn syrup and why all of this was just basically a Republican scheme and the government and blah, blah, blah. The way she was presenting it, it sounded really off to me. And I said, Aren't you worried though? Because you're telling your students how to think. I mean, we're teaching them to write, and writing is thinking, no doubt. But it's how to express their own thoughts. I mean, we're here to teach them how to think clearly and express clearly. We're not here to tell them what to think. And so I asked her, I said, aren't you bothered that you're telling it? And she looked at me astonished that I would even dare take issue with this, and said, no, they need to think the right things. And I just couldn't believe that. Now, maybe now she would not be so forthcoming about that attitude, but that is absolutely the attitude and the way that academics approach their classes. This is the way they teach people in college. They want you to think the right things. And what are the right things? The right things are the things that they think. They have come around full circle. The SJW mindset has come around full circle to where it is now wanting to legislate its morality to you. Now, what do I mean by legislate? Obviously, in the case of Brianna Wu here, talking about wanting to actually use Congress, she's actually wanting to do something. It'll never happen, but she's actually wanting to use the law somehow to fix this outcome of these movies and silence criticism and all that kind of nonsense and dissent. But even without going all the way to actual laws, we see Disney doing that already. We see the whole Rotten Tomatoes underhanded crap about taking down the do you not want to see this movie button, and now they're pulling down reviews, and it's just all so smarmy and underhanded. And we know that Disney's behind this. We know that Disney's doing this, and there's got to be a sort of a monetary motive behind it, but there's certainly somewhere that SJW motive behind it too. This movie has to succeed because it's right. It's right, and it's pushing this agenda, and this agenda is right, and America needs to get on board or get out. That's the mentality here. And this is that sort of SJW legislate our morality, coerce our morality attitude, and it is absolutely ridiculous. They can't even see it. They're too blinded by their self-righteousness to even realize that they've become the very thing they hate. There's no difference in principle. There's no difference than an SJW outlawing negative reviews about a female-led film than a incredibly fundamentalist, all the way extremist right-wing Christian trying to outlaw gay marriage. No, there's no difference between that, because both of those individuals have a personal morality, something personal that they think is right, and they are trying to use the government to force that morality onto others. And this is a flaw. This is a flaw in SJW thinking, and I see it in the academic world big time. Because academics, they should be smart, right? And for the most part, they are very intelligent people. They spend a lot of time studying and in school, and in a lot of ways, they spend a lot of time engaging in critical thinking and things like that. But they have this incredibly large blind spot when it comes to their political agenda. Suddenly, the most learned and studied and incredibly accomplished scholar falls victim to the most basic logical fallacy, which is the false binary. The false binary says that there's only two sides to this issue. There's the good guys and the bad guys. There's the right side and the bad side. And my side is right. My side is right because I'm right? Because I'm right, so my side is right. And everybody who disagrees with me, they're wrong. They're wrong. They're either evil or they're ignorant, and there's no other way to look at it. And we have to make the right side prevail. This is childhood reasoning. This is ridiculous. This is so beneath what should be the level of anybody who spent that much time in the academic world, but it's not. It's not. I remember not only my classmates, but my professors. My professors were absolutely, for the most part, I had a couple of good ones here and there, ones that I really, really loved. And certainly I had a lot better when I moved on to an MFA program after receiving my master's. But in that liberal arts academic world, they know they're right, and all of these sides are wrong. To complete my MA degree in English, we had to write something called a review of scholarship. And it was basically, we would pick a topic, we would pick something that had been the subject of scholarly work, and then we would review all of the papers and work that was written on that subject and write a review, right? Sort of this is the state of scholarship about this issue. This is where maybe we need to move forward, in general. So it was a nice milestone, a nice stepping stone to receiving the MA degree. Well, the whole master's degree program was a problem for me because I just wanted to study literature. I wanted to understand literature more. But again, as I said, you had to pretend at least that you were there to further political agendas. It was just nonsense. So I figured, okay, well, I'll do Wonder Woman. I'll do the gender study of Wonder Woman. How's that? It kind of makes me throw up my mouth even saying that now. But there's a politics-free way to approach that topic. And that's what I did. So I looked at a lot of the papers that were written, and I tried to compile sort of a consensus of the scholarship on that topic at the moment. And what I found, and what I wrote about in my review of scholarship, was that the feminist theorists were really just chasing their tails. They'd become so stagnant in their approach and everything they had to say about not just Wonder Woman, but a character like Wonder Woman, any of these superhero, women out there. All they were doing was looking at these characters and saying, is this good or bad for women? Is this good reflection of women or a bad reflection of women? And that pretty much is all feminist theory in a nutshell. They'll tell you it's not. One of their famous, defenses is, well, if you think that, you don't really understand it. Give me a break. Are you kidding me? They don't want to offer you any kind of greater understanding, but that's all they'll say. And they'll say they're pushing past that, but they're not. That's pretty much the basis of all feminist theory. It's a very basic and low-level approach to look at literature. It's quite ridiculous. So I said in that review of scholarship that the queer theorists I would read, they were actually doing some interesting stuff, at least at the time, because they were actually looking at the character of Wonder Woman, and they were looking at what is masculine about her, what is feminine about her. They were looking at costume analysis, at character design. They were looking, I read some really cool papers. Again, at the time, I don't know, it's probably ridiculous now, but at the time, and I pointed that out in my review of scholarship, I said, as of this moment, the queer theorists are really taking this in an interesting direction, where the feminist theorists just seem to be very stagnant at the moment, just sort of chasing the same questions over and over again. The feedback I got for that draft was absolutely not, sir. This is what happened. So of course, there's a couple feminist studies professors on the board who are reading these drafts. And the advisor handed back the paper, and one of the comments that she wrote on it says, "You can't write that to feminist professors. They're reading that. You can't write that to them." I thought, am I going to hurt their feelings? I don't want the poor ladies to cry then. I mean, why can't I write that to them? This is the flippin' academic world. We're here to question ideas and to make arguments. If I'm wrong, then tell me. Don't just tell me I can't write that to them. But that made perfect sense to her, the advisor. Yeah, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. Might hurt her fifis. It was ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. But that, again, that's the low-level logic that these academics resort to when it comes to anything that touches a challenge to their political ideologies, their socio-political ideologies. It's just insane. So I see this wrapped up in the Captain Marvel issue now, not only because of Brianna Wu's nonsense comments, but now I stumbled across this article from Bounding Into Comics where Kelly Sue DeConnick's talking about, Captain Marvel's just an amazing film, and I just know there are moments in the end that are gonna inspire some women's studies papers in the academic world, and I just it was so laughable hearing that, because that's what you want this film to do. That's great. So the audience thinks it's a piece of crap, but it'll inspire some feminist studies papers. Well done. That's about the level of anything you create. It's for the academics. It's for the social justice warrior bullshit. It's for this low-level logic. It's this nonsense way of thinking about the world. You're right. Everybody's wrong. Silence them. Silence the heathens, because you are bringing light and religion to the world. That's what they're doing. There's no difference. They're crusaders. These SJWs are absolute crusaders. They are coming in to purge the world of all dissent. It's nonsense. They've become everything they hate. They don't have a logical leg to stand on anymore. And this whole Captain Marvel debacle is just a perfect example of it. It really is. I've gone on long enough. That's all I'll say at this point. But we're just going to see more and more and more of this to come whenever the final weekend numbers come through, whenever the next weekend fall off happens. There's no amount of evidence to show them that this movie was a misstep. They will argue at every point. They will twist around every piece of evidence. You are in the wrong for daring to suggest such a thing. It's amusing to watch, and at the same time, it's incredibly sad to watch, thinking about the state of our society at the moment. But stay tuned for more. Please do click like and subscribe, share the video around, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.